A man once spent his life savings on a ticket for a grand ocean liner bound for America. Having no money left for food, he packed a small bag of cheese and bread to last the voyage. For days, he sat on the deck eating his meager rations, watching through the glass as other passengers feasted in the luxury dining rooms. On the morning they arrived in New York, a ship's officer asked why he had never joined the other passengers for a meal. When the man admitted he couldn't afford it, the officer looked at him in disbelief. The price of his ticket had already covered every meal in the dining hall. He had starved while holding the legal right to a feast. This same tragedy plays out in the lives of millions of believers. They struggle through chronic sickness and financial lack, unaware that the terms of the agreement they hold actually guarantee a different reality. The Bible functions as a literal, legally binding contract. It is a document filled with specific clauses that secure physical health, financial stability, and spiritual authority for those who know how to read them. The mechanics of this contract begin at creation. God granted the first man, Adam, absolute and unquestionable dominion over the entire earth. As the legal lord of the planet, Adam possessed the authority to manage its affairs and govern every living thing. When Adam disobeyed God and bowed to Satan in the Garden of Eden, he committed an act of high treason. This wasn't a simple mistake. It was a formal transfer of the planet's title deed. Adam handed over the dominion God had given him, making Satan the legal god of this world. Because God's gift of dominion to man was absolute, he respected the legality of that transfer. This shift in lordship created a jurisdictional barrier, leaving God without a direct legal avenue to intervene in the affairs of a world that had now chosen a different master. Since the earth was now operating under Satan's authority, it fell under a curse of poverty, disease, and death. To help humanity, God could not simply break his own laws of authority. He needed to establish a new legal loophole to re-enter the earth's system. That loophole began with a man named Abraham. God approached him with a proposition to draft a new agreement, a strategic contract that would allow God to legally bypass Satan's dominion and protect a specific group of people on earth. This agreement was a blood covenant. In ancient cultures, a blood covenant was the most binding form of contract possible, sealed by the shedding of blood to signify that the agreement could never be broken as long as the parties lived. The terms were precise. In exchange for Abraham's strict obedience to God's word, God promised an umbrella of protection. This provided a localized zone where the global curse of poverty and death could not reach Abraham or his descendants. These guarantees are detailed in the 28th chapter of Deuteronomy. The contract lists specific clauses for physical health, financial surplus in every storehouse, and total social and political prominence. This immunity even extended to military defense. The contract stipulated that if an enemy rose up against them one way, the power of the covenant would force that enemy to flee 7 ways. This successfully established a legal beachhead. It allowed God to manifest his blessings within the earth's borders, honoring the terms of his contract while Satan still held general dominion over the rest of the planet. When Jesus began his ministry in Galilee, he did not perform miracles by simply exercising his power as the Son of God. He could have, but that would not have satisfied the legal requirements of the earth. Instead, Jesus operated as a man under the Abrahamic covenant. He utilized the exact same legal rights, tools, and written promises that were available to every other Israelite of his time. Jesus achieved what no other human had managed. He perfectly fulfilled the demanding terms of the covenant by living a completely sinless life, keeping every commandment and walking upright before God. His death on the cross served as the ultimate legal substitute. Since Jesus had never broken the contract, he had no penalty to pay. Instead, he took the penalty for humanity's breach of contract upon himself. When Satan took the sinless Jesus into the bowels of the earth, it was an illegal seizure of a man untouchable by the curse. That illegal act violated the laws of eternal justice and shattered the power of the curse over all who believe. The courts of justice were satisfied. The penalty for sin was paid in full, and Satan's legal authority over mankind was officially revoked. Jesus' resurrection established a new covenant. This updated contract retained the original blessings of Abraham, but was built on even stronger promises and a permanent redemption from the curse. The legal chain of title extends to you. Promises made to Abraham and his seed, Christ, mean anyone belonging to Christ is also an heir. You are a joint heir, possessing the exact same contractual right to God's power as Jesus. Every verse in the Bible functions as a clause in a personal, binding contract that governs your specific inheritance. Understanding this legal reality shifts the way you approach prayer. You no longer need to beg for intervention or hope that God decides to help. The believer's role is similar to someone holding a signed agreement from an honest businessman. You don't plead with him to fulfill the deal. You simply hold up the contract and expect the terms to be honored. Instead of asking for healing or financial relief, you have the right to command those blessings to manifest based on the authority of the word. When symptoms of sickness or lack appear, you apply the specific scriptural defense. You vocalize that Christ has redeemed you from the curse of the law, and you stand on that written right until the circumstances align with the contract. Mastering the terms of this divine contract provides the legal framework to navigate the world's problems and enforce total physical, financial, and spiritual victory.